And talking about kickoffs, we do know, Taco, that they are contested, right? Yes, sure, they've been winning the drop, but we do also see crazy things happen. You never really know when it comes down to these 50-50 splits on the battle bus like this. So we'll see if Vino and Clicks can make it off drop.
Yeah, but to be fair, we've seen quite a few different strategies try to be employed so far by Roxanne and Dax, and literally nothing has stuck. They've been throwing everything at the wall, and it's just all been bouncing right back and smacking them in the face. But there's only so much left to be done at this point. I think it's all just a valuable learning experience, if anything. But restored reels continues to be a hot topic, given that it's Cease and Jack consistently up against Oceana there. Veno Clicks, though. Finally, we see Dax and Roxanne able to turn this in their favor. At least one elimination confirmed so far onto Veno. Question is whether or not they can find that next pickup onto Clicks.
This is exactly what I was alluding to. The way the map was perfectly split like that, it just makes it that much harder, especially if you're landing down here south of the battle bus route. Anything can happen. Let's watch it though. Clicks is gonna have to heal up a little bit here, gain the effects. Roxanne just gets a shield on. And Clicks is gonna go with as much HP as possible. This is gonna tell us that he is gonna be sticking around to fight for it. But with a player down in that other building, he has to know that he has a chance to go for the card if he wanted to here.
It's almost surprising that Roxanne and Dax aren't investing more aggressively towards securing that second elimination onto Clicks, because the longer they wait, the more time they've given him to boost up his shields. Sure, some good tags coming out of Dax. Gonna remove those shields almost as quickly as Clicks was able to scramble them together, but now he's got his escape route opportunity here if he makes it through that flaming boost hoop. Although, this is what I was asking for, MDF. Rox and Dax actually looking to confirm this elimination onto Clicks. He is scrambling every which way, trying to juke in all directions.
Oh, another team rolled up. Oh my gosh. Another team rolled up. Aoxy and JoJo dropped Dax before they could finish Clicks, who had no material, by the way. That's why he was zigging and zagging like that. It just... You can't get luckier. Like, what do you chalk that up to?
It's also, again, I pin that back to the hesitation that initially came from Roxanne and Dax. If they'd been quicker to the jump,
I agree,
they might have found that elimination onto Clicks well before Aoxy and JoJo had the opportunity to come and third-party them after the fact. But yeah, they definitely cannot catch a break, even when things look like they're finally shaping up well for Roxanne and Dax. They learn a very tough lesson in this one.
I'm just laughing. You see Aoxy throwing a clown emoji as well. Like, it's just all types of like little subtleties being thrown at one another. It's not looking good though. Clicks surrounded by now Acorn and Cold here, who are likely going to get this elimination as he tries to double back. He's got no time left to actually pick up the reboot card of Vino. Cold is just closing the gap here. I was going to say, is he trolling or is he going to box him up? Like, I'm trying to figure this out, but no! JoJo and Aoxy come back. They're like the
are they
little angels on their shoulder. They come to save the day and they get all the eliminations here. Okay, so not necessarily save the day, but just eliminate everyone here. Oh my gosh.
I don't think you could ask for an easier cleanup crew. Aoxy and JoJo Fishy, though, they have put a shutdown here for eliminating Clicks, so that's going to be our first place team on the leaderboard. Left to sit and wait until that final lobby of the day, MDF, but they've got to be feeling pretty good, all things considered, with their current position. Good amount of points, good amount of series points as well that they've confirmed here today. Aoxy and JoJo, though, we need to see a conversion into a strong late game performance after the terror that they just put all these other teams through.
It's almost like everyone's like, yeah, okay, Vino, we're not just gonna let you do it again. You know, let's all rotate towards that drop and just see what's going on over there. And then it just becomes a melting pot. All these teams fighting here. I mean, Acorn almost caught in the collateral there, quite literally due to the fact that Shadow rolled up out of nowhere. I don't even think Acorn's got the reboot card of Cold. He is just on the move right now. Maybe he does. He's got to have it, right? There's no way he's not going to pick him up. We've seen Acorn stay in the zone if he had to save his teammates. Oh, wait, he's going back. Oh, I guess he doesn't have it.
He's got to create some space first. He knew that it was too hot of a location. Too many teams kind of swarming through that desert biome. Made him quite uncomfortable with just looking to try and pick up that initial reboot. I respect the lap back though. Sometimes you just got to take a lap. Take a lap and then come right back and see if it works out better. Booga, Aviv, it's kind of been their story all day today. He's dealing with the likes of Pilot and Flix. But Acorn though, efficiently punished here. Virgo and Shadow more than happy to just sit pretty and wait for that lap back around by Acorn.
Who's the duo? Oxy and JoJo. These guys, they're real villains. They're the real villains of NA right now. I don't know what they're up to.
That's pretty dastardly, though, if you really think about it. I mean, 4 eliminations already staked here in second zone MDF exclusively off of playing cleanup crew. Like, yeah, you really aren't going to find a bigger villain of this lobby right now.
It's just like end of day jokes. They're probably like, all right, well, it is what it is. Miro and Pink right here. Well, let's think about it. Miro and Pink have a chance right now to finish first for the qualifier here. First place is out. That's a huge gap lead. Of course, Vino and Clix we knew that they had, but Acorn and Cold, now that they're out, that was their, if anything, their nearest competition. So Miro and Pink have a opportunity now, very rare opportunity, as do Iamzo and Tayson. Iamzo and Tayson, of course, starting off extremely hot. They got JoJo and Yoxi on them.
This could be the end of their reign, as Eoxy, JoJo Fishy, when actually on level ground with another duo, Tayson and Iamzo, quickly shut it down. So, a necessary vengeance, I think, for some of these teams in NA, even though I know for a fact that's not what's on Tayson and Iamzo's minds. They're looking to just collect the eliminations of whoever they come across. And at this point, they didn't even get a chance to try and recuperate. Virgo, Shadow immediately trying to collapse onto Tayson and Iamzo's current position. But Flowberry Fizz will pay off for the time being. Nitro Splash as well. Tayson and Iamzo, they could look for another 2 to add to the count. They've already got 6 eliminations, as is MDF, so they've been getting very active in this 5th lobby.
Yeah, Tayson just had to reload right there, and there it is. Now, back in action, back in order here. Tayson showing us just what he's made of here. Great side tag to give him a bit of an advantage here. And the focus here not to let up supporting Iamzo either. So they do a good job so far. Shadow's going to be the first to turn and bail out. Shadow and Virgo just playing a different type of Fortnite. So aggressive.
But Tayson doesn't have any white heal, so he's going to opt for the Slurp Cactus instead.
Nice.
That natural desert biome definitely coming up pretty big for them, but at the same time, some tags from behind again, since they didn't confirm either of those eliminations onto Shadow or Virgo. Now that see that Shadow Virgo, they got the opportunities to try and exchange some blows. Tayson though, gonna opt to just continue moving forward. Just knows that he's got ample amounts of surge damage as is, rather focus on his rotations and more optimal position. Snacky Magia caught in a bit of a tough spot here on the edge of Mount Olympus. If they're not careful and they stay here for too long, could be a third-party circumstance coming up from Brawler's Battleground. But Snacky, it's all about cranking up. He is trying to see if he can get an angle to approach on. Instead, it's a massive tag to the face. Tyler doing a decent job defending his current position. And Snacky, that's going to cost him his last shield potion.
They do enough to push off Curve and Tyler here. So unfortunately, we're not going to see the results of this battle. It's our 7th place team against the 46th place in the tournament standings thus far after the first 4 full games have concluded. We jump out Booga and Aviv playing this far north. It's kind of interesting that Booga and Aviv, in my opinion, aren't a little bit higher on the leaderboards. But again, chalk it up to those first 2 games not necessarily going their way. Because all the other teams that are on the standings, like in that top 5, are pretty much landing south. They're all like neighbors, right? Adjacent to one another. The skill of the teams in the southern area is ridiculous, but up here, you got the likes of Booga and Aviv, ooh, right next to Ozone and Lawrence, who we've seen capture a few highlights here today already. Jumping back to the hotter side of the map, you have Mixon and Blaha right now, looking around here. Big storm base set up, towering over the area.
Mixon just non-stop looking for any signs of life, any sort of movement to try and take shots at with this 4x scope on the Hunter's DMR. Isn't able to connect. Only threw 2 shots out there, though, to be fair. And now, one more time, just rotating each and every single one of these panels of this surge base, trying to see if he can leverage his elevated position and convert it into some nice surge damage.
He's doing it well, especially if you notice the pros use the cones because it's easier to see through when you hold that edit. Just little advantages to give them the comfort and the most out of their big bases like that. A couple eliminations in the feed. Shadow to Bucky and Okus, so things are continuing for the likes of Shadow and crew. Reet and Ritual with the big storm tower as well. We talked about these being set up. This is much taller than any other one we've seen so far. Same situation on hand here, though.
Yeah, if you ever had any issues with locating where Reckless Railways is on the map, well, Reet and Ritual have essentially established it for the whole lobby. They've even got a decent line of sight up towards Rift Island. With all the shots going off in the surrounding area, it could kind of interest Reet and Ritual to move from their current position. Maybe see if they want to get a piece of the pie here. Batman Booga and Rapid, aka one of Kelly's favorite teams, they're looking to make some marks of their own here on Rift Island. But if they're not careful, it could come at a price. Batman Booga definitely trying to be wary, trying to secure plenty of space here with this current box base, a monument essentially, around this capture point. And it does look as though it will go for free essentially here to Batman Booga and Rapid. They've staked the claim on Rift Island. Bryson Bolts, Mew and Par. They've got to be a little bit more wary now, a little bit more cautious in terms of their approach here. Since Batman Booga and Rapid, they technically have the advantage against some of these other teams here now.
There's loadout here as well. That mythic hand cannon ready to go. Let's go Bryson Bolts. This is a team that's been trying to play for some high ground spots. We've seen them do it a few times. They're gathering the attention of teams in the vicinity. That could be Reet's base over there.
It is.
You heard the tag right as we jumped out of the shot there. Meanwhile, Aviv and Booga from the north side take the launch pads. They kind of trail the outskirts, similar to what you saw Ozone making his move. They're content with being on the edge. I'm so curious as to whether or not they actually have enough surge. I know they have elimination, so it's not like they haven't been fighting, but playing so passively on the outskirts here. This wouldn't work in, grand finals, if you will.
And that's the most important thing to note here is that not only would it not necessarily be a very consistent strategy for them, I mean, throughout the course of today, it definitely had its highs and lows for this duo, but their plan has essentially been staked on trying to challenge Pilot and Flix over at Piney Lane, so they're making that rotate out of their drop at Classy Courts. And sure, they found that one elimination this game and posing some serious issues to Pilot and Flix's game plan, leaving them as a solo situation. But at the same time, yeah, the surge alone from one elimination, when you consider just how insanely aggressive some of these end games have been, don't think it's gonna be enough to hold strong for some of those late game dead side rotates that Bugha and Aviv seemingly keep trying to set themselves up for.
Yeah, and in the current tournament setting, may not be a big deal, but you know, we're looking to the future. Look at this, Tayson and Iamzo. This is how they continue to maintain some of the highest elimination counts round after round. It's these early game battles. Like, how do you come out of that with 7 elimination? I mean, the only other team we saw doing this was Peterborough and Boyo in Major 2, of course, with the absurd amount of elims they would get game after game. Tayson and Iamzo somehow finding that pacing is really admirable, especially considering we're talking about a completely different type of, you know, meta setting right now. Like, this is, if anything, way more even playing field, right? Because everyone has access to the Nitro. Whereas in the last season, you know, only Peter Montoya had the mythic medallion, right, of agility to dash and do what they were doing.
I'm right there with you, though. It has definitely seemed to cause some growing pains as well, given that Peter and Pollo didn't even make it through for this round 4 of week 1 Major 3 quals. But again, it's not too much of a damper on the mood, considering that they're still in a decent position as far as the lower bracket of semis is concerned. And we've got Virgo and Shadow finding yet another knock, yet another elimination. They've also got 7 in tow here, MDF, so it's not just Tayson and Iamzo that are packing a big punch here on the elimination count of Lobby 5. Virgo and Shadow with the Nitro Splash, seems as though they've got another target in sight. It's gonna be Baka and Pars. And look at that, Bugha and Aviv as well. It's gonna be a sticky situation for all parties involved.
We saw there, the bash is what does the damage there, breaking the shields. It wasn't even that he landed a tag. But Virgo, things swing around as Baka claps back with a huge shot of his own. Here comes the backup from up above. Shadow breaks in, and I've always had very, very high hopes for Shadow. I'm wondering if and or when is everything just gonna line up and he's gonna find himself on a podium finish for an FNCS finals.
They just completely hijacked Aviv and Bugha's loot, though, if you think about it. The refreshes that I think Bugha and Aviv were hoping for just cut short there. And now, Aviv, Bugha, they're forced to rotate elsewhere. Unfortunately, that elsewhere involves a large amount of congestion that's starting to pool on the southeast side of the zone. Even worse still, Blaha and Mixon with a slightly better position, just a little bit further up this hill in comparison. All Mixon really needs is for Blaha to maybe pass over one of these Nuka-Colas, and then he'll be good to go.
I wonder what they're holding back for. They're just gonna move. Forget waiting. Must have some insight here. Let's see. They slide in and ooh, puts him in a very unfavorable position. Then not even looking to go for hard mats. So this is all risking the positioning there. Ends up working out as Miro and Pink ease up on the pressure. But the zone's pulling east. Wait, is there a chance Baja Mixon actually have a forecast tower? Or did they already see the zone being popped there? I'm trying to gather some insight now.
The closest one to them would probably be the one that Bryson Bolts tend to try and go for. That's just a little bit north of Dumpenhausen, considering that Blaha and Mixon, they land very southeast of the map over at Research Rock, so not exactly ideal forecast positioning, but you can never really factor it out. Don't always get to see which teams actually stake their claim on those big objectives throughout the course of a match, but I'm more so interested in the fact that Blaha and Mixon were so determined to hold on to those Nuka-Colas as long as possible, just trusting that those final confirmation shots wouldn't be applied into Mixon's shield to not have a whole lot of white HP to work with. And granted, they're not the only team that could be potentially struggling at this point. A lot of teams kind of coming to a halt here as they look to just try and operate. A lot of these rotates off the back of these nitro splashes. And Rapid, just as quickly as that shield potion got him back to a healthy spot, already down to just 8 shield. The entirety of the lobby just seemingly taking notice, and it's going to be Taki and Freeze posing the biggest threat currently, just trying to hold them back from pressing any further into zone.
It's crazy. Rapid and Bugha now 172 points. They have a chance to break into top 3. Don't forget, Acorn and Cold eliminated off the drop here, giving teams this runway, but so is Vino and Clicks as they're sitting in the lobby right now following along as well. So a lot happening here. The standings are surely going to be much more congested up towards that top 10 and likely a new second and third place team sitting amongst there going into game number 6. So Tayson and Yamzo flying their way back up here with 7 elims, only at 150, even with all that work here, even with the little bit of placement points now. Just shows you how quickly they slipped off the running, if you will, just by losing a game or 2.
But if they can find a Victor Royale here in Lobby 5, it could definitely bring them back into the conversation. Certainly not a duo I would ever count out by any means. Blaha Mixon, though, they managed to find an elimination for themselves. We'll get a chance to see the double bash of the Nitro boost, and that is painful for Farsi. He did not even get a chance to respond. Just crouched, hoping nobody would notice him, and he gets pounced on by Blaha and Mixon. Victor now trying to see if he can confirm, but over peaked just a little too long. Got a little bit of damage in, but not enough for the knock. And at the expense of his own shield getting broken, that's going to be both of his shield potions potentially. We'll still have 1 left over, but opting to utilize some of that Flowberry Fizz instead. Still, not resources you want to have to forcibly expend at this point.
I like this spot that they're in with the zone bouncing back for them, but a little nervous now just from taking a bit of damage to even make a move. The other side, though, you have Raze kind of positioned up. He's likely to be the one to hold hype for some time. We'll see if anyone tries to contest him with no Vino and Clicks in the lobby. They were the, I'd say most notably from what we saw, but hold up, Tayson breaks his way through, finds Batman Bugha with the elimination there, and that brings him on up to 8 now, and Rapid doesn't know what happened. He was just sitting there, and just like that, loses his teammate. He's also below the surge here, but the threshold should be met pretty shortly here as Miro and Pink start finally finding their set of eliminations. And they make the move first to the front side of zone here. Still playing the mid ground, though.
Part of the danger, though, that comes with trying to establish your own layer inside of the mid ground when you've got players just running through every single wall with that nitro boost off the nitro splash. It's insanity to try and keep up with. Raze, as a solo, doing his best to put up a nice facade here that he's actually not operating just by himself, as if he's got another teammate with him, but have to expect it's only a matter of time. Sure enough, Pink making his way up from that position of secondary height. Miro right next to him. They've spotted out Raze, and he forfeited the high ground immediately. Wants to try and secure just a little bit more placement points, but this could be an optimal spot now for Miro and Pink. All they really need is a little bit more materials. They can get a good knock, good elimination into a refresh. That could be the turning point for these two.
I just can't help but think of someone just sitting there, full deck of cards, and just trying to bluff their play out. Someone calls him on it. Let's take a look at this. Tayson, Yamzo down 9 eliminations, duo above them. Gmoney Resypical end up fighting for high ground after Pink had it established alongside Miro, and they give it up. And I'm curious as to what possessed them to think that it was a good time to go for height with this little bit of material, and it does seem to be working so far as Miro and Pink are forced down. Just a single mat now. This is a very crucial elimination, but no, couldn't get Noxy in time. Out comes Nicola here. Little glimpse onto Pink, but Miro misses the hold and still finds Freeze there with a monstrous tag. Just scrambling here. What can you do?
Well, at this point, it's a miracle that Miro didn't even get knocked in the process there. Pink,
4 elims still
going.
going.
Corner. He might actually be able to pick up Chris if they're not careful. Instead, it's going to be Blaha sprinting by. Another massive tag from behind, but Pink and Miro finally get shut down. Yamzo and Tayson still operating, still working their way through the low ground.
12 elims for Tayson in the Yamzo now. The numbers starting to rack up here, but high ground pressure should be able to close this one out as Tayson is down to a single mat. We don't know how Yamzo's looking. Yamzo actually does have just enough material. Some hard mats come out. Okay, this is going to give them a chance to actually heal back and get back into this game. So it's not completely over yet. It will come down to whether or not Curve pushes Tayson and Yamzo on the low ground, or if he goes for high ground. He pushes up to the second layer. This is going to give Tayson and Yamzo better angles here, more room to work with. Gmoney Resypical starting to run out of material up top. So the gas is running thin, but Curve finds Tayson there, and he evens the playing field out, giving Resypical the advantage, and they close out the win there. So taking the high ground and turning it into a Game 5 Victory Royale is exactly what they needed.
That was nearly stolen away as well by Tayson and Yamzo. If they'd had just a little bit more to work with, Curve really being the thorn in their side for lobby number 5 here, MDF, but an excellent pickup there from Gmoney and Resypical. The fact that they overtook the high ground from Miro and Pink and managed to hold on to it despite their low material count just goes to show that they did an excellent job at suppressing a lot of the low ground layers.
Yeah, it's crazy how much that third component in these types of end games ends up playing into the weight of who's gonna win this, essentially tipping the balance here all the way into Resypical and Gmoney's side on the scale there, and it was just all but over. Congratulations, we actually see a new team jump in for the Game 5 win here for Gmoney and Resypical, the first here on the weekend for them. So the qualifiers are off to a great start for Gmoney and Resypical, and you know what? They did that with a well-deserved win. They actually fought for height.
Yeah, and I think that they are justly rewarded as well, because taking height, not necessarily the easiest thing when you're dealing with Miro and Pink, but a success story nonetheless here for Resypical and Gmoney. More to come, though, in our final lobby of the day and a recap of Game 5 right after the short break.